Welcome to the J3U University Podcast. I'm your host, John Jewett.
And I'm your co-host, Luke Miller.
Our mission is to elevate the physique coaching standard
and to bring the highest level of competitor to the stage.
Let's jump into today's episode. The Coach's Corner, the prep mistakes that we still make. And honestly, some of the worst showings probably happened when I thought I had a lot of it figured out. And as you go through your contest prep journey, you're going to have a lot of realization moments of that when I thought earlier on I knew quite a bit and then just get humbled. So Luke and I today are going to go through all the coaching mistakes that we still make along the way and what we can do to make less of them. How's it going, Luke?
Good, man. It's prep season. It's show season. It's every weekend. Just like one peak after the next. So it's really moving, but I love this time of year. It's like it moves so fast, but at the same time, it's like everybody's so excited and enjoying themselves. And like we've been lucky to win quite a bit so far this year. So that's been a lot of fun. And I love this topic because I think there's so many ways to skin a cat, and there's a lot of lessons I've learned over the years of doing this, and they're fun to share. Like we get to share it a lot with the J3U coaches in our coaching calls. And I think there's a lot to pull from this because how you pick up signs and signals from different types of athletes can vary based on like their presentation of the type of athlete they are. So we have to be aware of kind of how some of these present and potentially catch it before the prep even starts so that you can avoid bad preps in the first place.
Yeah, being in the contest prep season now, and especially I have like a bunch of peak weeks that I'm doing now, which I love peak week. It is the most fun that I have in prepping the athletes any part of the year because it just gets so meticulous with all the data. Yeah. And I love it because it's almost like it gets very predictable and exciting to see someone finally come on stage and not miss the mark. Which, of course, I've had my times of missing the mark. Yeah. And the first time, almost shouldn't say the first time, because I felt like earlier on I was doing my self-coaching and like you keep progressing in different ways and that's okay. But I think the time that really hit me harder was when I was doing the 2018 New York Pro. And I was a pro already. Like I turned pro. I had a pro debut. This is going to be my second pro show. You feel like you know something, right? I've was prepping along the way, and man, like I could grind, like just from my background and even my psychology of what I enjoy. Like I love to grind hard, and to my own like dismantling, I'll keep just grinding away until there's nothing left. And this was that prep, and it was so important. And also going back to leaving with athletes to have a good assessment of, are you even ready for prep? And these are mistakes that you just might not catch from something conveying it in your athlete, right? So for this prep, I came back from Dominican Republic and I had like this crazy like parasite or virus or something that kept me sick for like 5 weeks, this GI issue. I lost like 20 pounds. I was good for like about a month, and then I started prep, which a red flag. I probably shouldn't have started prep right then. But anyway, it made a very, very challenging prep to where I was doing the Stairmaster like 2 hours a day, level 10. Like it was going to battle on this thing, drenched in sweat, like towel on my head, just listening to like motivation music the whole time. Like it was intense, man. Like going through that, I'm like, I could do any prep. Yeah. I felt like, but along the way, it was like, you know, I was coaching with Matt at the time, and just the weekly emails that I give back to him, like, all right, man, just pushing it. Like I felt like I was a killer in prep, whatever needs to be done. And in retrospect, like I didn't have a right gauge, my own hedonic scale of like effort of like, man, I'm at 10, but also that's not right. Harder wasn't better to improve a prep. I needed a balance there, and I didn't know how to convey that accurately. Yep. And then on the coaching side, you just needed more conversations to really happen to be able to get a gauge of when someone's not reporting as much effort as they are putting in. Mm-hmm. So those are just like what all led to me being in a very, very fatigued state and not coming in conditioned. And it was just really disappointing to be on stage. So, a few takeaways from that is just suffering, quote unquote suffering, right? And grinding and just putting in the work. Just don't question anything. I'm a machine. Those are actually some of the hardest people that I've prepped before. And I think that made my own prep very hard for someone else to coach it. Mm-hmm. Because I think some of the better people that I've had coaching experiences with are where we built in communication to where I can get the right feedback of like knowing when someone's crossing the edge or not, and knowing when to pull them back and when to keep pushing. And with like the John in that prep, there was just all gas pedal and no brake. Mm-hmm. So it made its own challenges, but nonetheless, those were mistakes of my own personal journey, and ones that I've even seen in athletes that I've coached. Certain situations where you have those athletes that are similar mindset, right? And you've probably crossed paths with plenty of those. The machine.
Oh man, the machines are fun but dangerous. They're like the double-edged sword, right? They're like, because you can get them to do almost anything, but then they can also go to a place that's borderline unfixable. I think what's interesting, and like from a prep insight perspective of those type of clients that I think helps them a lot is doing the work before the prep so that it makes the prep like easier than they even expected. Like, I'm not going to talk about this much, but you're prepping Colton right now. And like, we just trained together yesterday, and he's like, it almost feels too easy. It's like, I don't feel like I should feel like this. He's like, it makes me feel like I'm not ready. But then I look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Like, it's like this combination of that feeling. And I feel like that's where you get these people that have this like machine mindset into a place. And I think one of the biggest preps that I learned from was a prep that I did a few years ago. This girl was a workhorse, and I'll leave her name out of it just because, just for clarity's sake, or for her sake. But it was one of the hardest preps I've ever pushed someone in my life. And I look back on that prep and the body composition that I let her start that prep at, as far as like how I sequenced the phases beforehand into the contest prep, I left myself with a timeline that the rate of loss had to be perfect to make it. And she's one of those that you did a lot of fixing in the off season from a hormonal standpoint, pretty adaptive in regards to the food response. Adaptive doesn't always lead to the perfect contest preps because the changes don't push people quite as far. And so we ended up in this prep, like it was 4 or 5 weeks of like 840 calories and 2 hours of cardio. And it put her in a place where she got so much relief from winning the overall at this show, and she actually beat a girl that was like the favorite going in, that was supposed to win the show, that she just stepped away from bodybuilding at that point and was like, I'm happy. Like I did what I wanted to do. She was supposed to do nationals a few weeks later. She won the overall that weekend with her boyfriend at the time, so it was like a good memory. And it was one of those situations I was like, man, like she's got the shape, she's got the skill, she's got the talent. On stage, she was probably 90% there for the regional. It's like, if I would have like been a little bit more resistant on either starting that prep that year or just held back on the phase before, would she have continued through competing? Because she wouldn't have gone through a prep that was so brutal. And that's kind of where I was already using timelines at that point, but man, I started the timelines even earlier than I was when I was then, so that I never really ran into that situation again.
I've had some similar cases too, especially like you said, the females that, gosh, you feel like you overestimate the timeline and underestimate the response to where it should give you extra weeks, but it still isn't enough. And you like have even a week where you have like a hopeful I'm not going to make a change, and that's when the body's going to respond, and it still doesn't. You're like, oh no, like I needed that week to happen.
Yeah.
And then you're like, are still accumulating the more cardio, the less food, the fat burners, until we're like, man, we're like 7 weeks out. I have all the levers pulled, and the rate of loss is just not there. What do we do? And I still come across some situations of clients that are that hard to prep. And with this one case that I have in mind, like, we end up pushing back the show, and it was okay to do that. We had the timeline for it. But man, it was that same situation, Luke, where those extra weeks of dieting and just minuscule changes along the way.
So brutal.
She ended up not competing for another 2 years.
Yeah.
And switched divisions which was a positive, and we talked about that. But to get to like the really low body fats and to have the very adaptive metabolism and just a low baseline of energy expenditure, not energy expenditure, but just metabolic rate. It just was the right call for her to switch to some other division. But man, like every prep I think would have been like that. Like, it's not like there was some secret to pull. And I've had other clients too where they're always preps like that. We make them better. Absolutely. Like, you can make a prep that eases the burden of what it feels like, but you're not completely revamping someone totally.
Yeah.
At least from what I've seen, it's rare, especially in divisions where you're not going from like bikini to bodybuilding, right? Like, you added 40 pounds of muscle tissue on someone. It's like you're not seeing that vast difference in a body. So those people are just still always very challenging to prep. And it takes the ones where you've had success. Now it's just having to be so on them and let them understand the post-show is so key to set them up for off-season time and then to make the next prep better. And those are the ones that are still just takes a lot of communication and proper planning to nail that type of client. And that's always been a struggle.
That client is like, I don't want to say the bane of my existence, but the reality of that situation is that they're probably coming to you where they had that prep that was brutal and they didn't get in true contest shape. And if you get them early enough to manage the post-show phase well, like, you get them to a way better spot body comp to food. But that next prep a lot of times it's still just as brutal or pretty close to it. It's just they actually get to stage condition that next time, right? It's like they actually get all the way there. And it's like, you can't build an expectation that it's going to be easier because you're still going to have that still adaptive athlete. But for these athletes, the margins become a lot bigger. Like, when I say the margins, like the small habits that add up in that post-show and all season that lead into what starts the prep. I think that's where you kind of gain that margin of making it all the way there. And then that's kind of where you build that prep cushion. And those are the hardest lessons to learn because you get to a point, like you said, where it's like, I know fatigue's high, girl or guy or whatever, but like, I don't have the time to pull back. I just need you to like strap up your boots and just pick them up no matter how much lead it feels like that's in them.
Oh man, that brings up another type of client situation, which though it's a similar, like with person, it's the machine, but mistake that I made is just letting someone go too far with pulling down. And I'll reference Renee in this. And I think it's more so with the division of like someone that doesn't need to be like bodybuilding level stage ready. But I'll take that back actually, because I was talking to Colton about this too, that leaner is not always better, right? If you lose so much of your physique, and I'm talking minuscule detail here, like a line of a glute line is what we're arguing over, but looks like 5 pounds of loss of fullness.
Yep.
Like that's that type of difference. But anyway, with Renee, the idea was like, well, thanks everyone for tuning in to today's podcast. Are you struggling to hit your peak on show day? Feeling lost in the offseason? Upgrade your coaching game with J3U University. Our program covers everything from offseason to contest prep to peak week, all based from real client results. Along with our comprehensive physique curriculum, you'll also get access to our 4 rooms with our J3U team to answer any questions you have and live Q&A sessions to further your coaching and athlete experience. We are the source of education for top IFBB pros and coaches. Join us to elevate the coaching standard at J3 University. Let's get back to today's podcast. If I can get her a little extra pulled down, then we'll have more freedom to feed her up and fill her out. Right? And so she could be 3 meals in and a gallon of fluid, right? And she could walk on stage like that versus I get her just there in body fat and I have to keep her pretty close to her fasted look. Well, she was too lean. And then when I started bringing in food and fluid, it just made her stupid vascular on stage. And it made her look even harder on stage. And then for finals, I knew she was like too hard, so I tried to do that even more. And it just made her look even fuller and more muscular. Which, don't get me wrong, like this was Renee's last show. She got second place. It was just great. She looked phenomenal. But the division was starting to shift a little bit softer too then. And Tyler gave her the critique, right? Like, hey, it looked like you tried to soften her up and she got really vascular. Like, yep, that's exactly what happened. And so that was a mistake on my end that, chasing the extra condition. I love it. I love condition. It's extremely impressive, but we're not just placed off of condition. Yeah. It's off of meeting your division requirements. And in that situation, you have to really, be balanced across the line there with it. And to tie it back to a similar point of recognizing fatigue is still one that can be challenging because especially coaching from afar of like gauging someone that just hasn't experienced that level of hard that needs to take it there versus someone that truly, is giving you feedback that needs to get pulled back, especially from the more maybe emotionally reserved person. You might not get an accurate gauge. Like in that same prep with Renee, like mid-prep, she had said something it was kind of just vaguely stated like, hey, I'm really feeling like high fatigue and I'm feeling like I'm on the verge of having some issues. And I think I pulled back just slightly, but not enough. It wasn't enough done. And with her stating that, for her to state that, because she's a machine too, was a big deal. Yeah. And I missed it. And she ended up like tweaking her back that week. And man, I won't live that one down. I heard about it several times. So yeah, you just have to really be able to have the coaching process to pull that out of your athletes and have the right lines of communication. And I think whether it's from that type of athlete, written text might not convey it at all. Like you might really need to see them in a Loom video saying that, like reading like, hey, fatigue's really high, like versus like seeing someone saying like fatigue's like really high. And you just see in their body language, like they're just done. And then watching them train and all the other aspects. So with Renee, I live with her. So that was a huge mistake. Like I see her all the time, but I think that can still be a harder one to gauge in the coaching sector of like gauging fatigue and making sure you're getting someone there with upholding tissue and training performance. And then to tie it back into my mistake with Renee, also knowing when to cut it off and not keep pushing them down.
I think it can be something that contributes to them actually adhering as well, because like for some people that pushing them across the edge is what ends up happening is they get pushed into cheating or eating off plan, right?
Have you seen that happen, Luke?
Happened to me a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I feel like I had a string of weeks where it's like every week was like, oh man, you won't believe what happened. Right.
Yeah. So it's tough though, because like the condition standards that are required from some of these classes are, I'm recording. Sorry. Where was I?
It's tough because some of the condition standards for these classes.
Yeah, right. It's tough because some of the condition standards for these classes are getting wild. So like WPD and even figure, like the size conditioning combo, and like figure you can get away with a little bit of softness, especially like lower body, but it's the standard just keeps elevating, and you have to get to places that you got these pros that turned pro years ago, right? They turned pro in 2016, 2017, 2018, when these classes were just different than what they are now. And they expect to be competitive at the same level that they were. And while they've progressed and gotten a lot better, like you could get away with some things in 2016 WPD that you just is not going to play game or play ball nowadays, right? And so you reach new levels of conditioning. When you reach new levels of conditioning, what ends up happening is you're feeling emotions and you're feeling things that you've never felt before. And it just kind of pushes people across the edge sometimes. And you have to be aware of it. It's really good to have a really good history with these clients to understand like this might be where they fall off plan. But that's the tough one to pick up on, because a lot of times you're picking up on it after the mistake happens, and then you are going to manage it from there.
I still learn sometimes on clients surprising me with how I write a plan and how it's interpreted. This was a few years ago, but I didn't think it would be a problem. This was back when I was using, Excel, and I would write for meal one, let's say I had a carbohydrate in there. It was like, whatever, it could be 100 grams of rice or half a bagel or whatever, banana. Let's say 100 grams of banana.
Not the same, but get the point.
Yeah, get the idea. I'd give 3 options across the board. Whatever, it could be rice, potato. And so you assume, your client picks an option, then goes to their next food item for the meal, whatever. I have eggs, then I have peanut butter or something, whatever. And I was struggling with one of these clients to get him lean. I'm like, man, the calories don't make sense for what I'm seeing with changes in body fat. So I just keep asking things. And I'm like, I end up going to be changing one thing in that meal that had the option. And I was like, hey, are you still eating this bagel, or can I just remove that and just adjust just the rice? Or I said something like that. And he's like, well, I've been eating all 3 of those. Yeah, exactly. You're like, but it says or. So I don't know.
It's on the plan.
I thought that seemed very clear for like, these are the options, but I think it needed to be stated differently or not at all, at least for this type of client. So clients can still surprise you with how they interpret the plan. And if you're assuming that every client's going to read the plan like all the other clients, or even a high-level client that's been very familiar with your process versus someone new coming in, I think we can easily just start assuming that everyone's going to get your process the same way. So I've had to still go through and troubleshoot with things that could seem obvious that just get missed because, when you write a plan, there's a lot in there about, condiments and drinks and things that could easily go missed by a client or just assumed. And you see stuff get added in that it shouldn't be happening, and you have extra calories there, or you're missing something in how they're performing their cardio potentially. So I've had to do a lot of troubleshooting like that, but that one killed me. Similar case was like, I've had this one happen a few times, which I wouldn't think I would need it stated somewhere, that if you woke up hungry at night, it's not okay to have a protein shake. That liquid calories still count.
Count its calories.
I remember my dad, he'd ice cream at night. I'm like, Dad, that's a lot of calories to eat at night and just in general. He's like, but it turns a liquid and it like runs through you like water. It's just joking, right? It's like the same thing. Okay, your protein shake still counts. You can't just have protein because protein has a more thermic effect to food. It's hard to store as body fat, whatever the justification is. I didn't think I would need to state that in plan, but this was like weeks later, I hear about it. Like, yeah, I just have a protein shake when I wake up and I'm hungry. Like all nonchalant, just like that was okay. It wasn't a big deal. It was not like I was cheating on my diet. So yeah, you, sometimes you need stuff really spelt out for your clients and surprises happen.
I've got one more and then we're going to move on. I was peaking someone and it was one of those early in my career. They were staying at my house, right? And God bless this human. It was also the week Emily was competing. So they were staying at my house. Emily was competing and they were competing. So I give them like 200 grams rice. And we had talked like earlier in the week about, you know, can we do cream of rice and rice as like the two carb sources? Those are the carb sources we're going to use during the peak because they sit the best, right? So I give them a meal and I go to do something. I'm like, you know, whatever it is, plus 200 grams of rice, right? So we leave, come back. He's like making this massive bowl of cream of rice. And he's like sitting there, like starting to eat it in like our biggest bowl that we own in the entirety of the house. And I'm like, what you eating, buddy? And he's like, oh, yeah, you said 200 grams rice, but I figured, you know, cream of rice is the same. So I just made 200 grams of cream of rice. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're not the same. And like peak week, mind you. So I'm like,
so this was a dry measure cream of rice versus a cooked measure. Hey, prep brain, like bless you, you know.
Dry measure cream of rice. So this went from like what, just shy of 60 carbs to like whatever 200 times 0.8 is. That's like, what is that?
160 grams of carbs.
Yeah, so an extra 100 grams. And I was like, oh gosh, bless. And so like, luckily I caught him before he really got into eating most of it. But it was like one of those like, oh my gosh, like I should never allow someone to just understand that like we can make these subs. And so like from that point on, this was like 2021 whenever Emily competed, like peak week is like a non-negotiable, like no subs. Like what I put on the plan is what I put on the plan. And so it's funny because you just learn from these mistakes, but a lot of this kind of drives the way you push systems and like how you keep your systems and your structure of how you communicate back and forth with your client. And making those really clear and objective and trying to remove emotion from things is huge to allow for yourself to make better decisions. Like we've even talked about this on the coaches weekend, like doing small things. Like if you're a coach at someone's show and you need to like take photos when someone poses for you and like, okay, great. Love it. I'm gonna go look at these photos outside the room and then decide on what you want to eat. And I'll text you. So that it's not that like feeling of they're watching you waiting for their next meal, right? And it's like some of these small things that you do in your systems can keep those details like of tracking much easier for the client, but it also keeps that communication clear and open as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of this too is like over time you'll build better systems and better ways of conveying your programs to clients because you pick up all this stuff along the way of like ways you didn't think clients would misinterpret aspects of it.
Yeah.
Even, you know, where I've seen a lot of issues, even for myself, I want to know a lot and feel like I'm well informed, especially going into a peak week.
Yep.
Because it's just, you don't know what you don't know. And to lower stress in that situation is huge. So with a lot of clients now, like at least I'll lay out clearly like what I'm going to be doing next. So a lot of times changes are made on the fly, but I know being in the client shoes, like you wake up in the morning, you send your coach your picks and you're like waiting for a diet change and you're like, man, I hope he gets it on time because I need to go tan by this time and I need to pack. And your coach, if your coach isn't there, he doesn't know like what exactly the schedule needs to be, right? Like how far your Airbnb is or whatever, like stuff like that, which can drive a lot of stress. And coaches sleep in sometimes. Coaches miss things, or it's technology fails you and you have poor Wi-Fi signal and you can't get your stuff to your coach and you think it's sent. So even through all that, like I do a lot of pre-planning to where the night before, like they're going to see the tentative plan and they know like along the way, like, hey, if something for any reason, like you don't hear from me, still start this plan. That way there's an ease there. There's planning already in place, and they know what to expect. And I always tell them, like, on these times, like, you're going to check in at this time, and I'll respond at this time. And then this is your meal time, right? So check-in is at 2:30. I'll respond by 2:45. Meal, whatever, starts at 3 p.m. So where it's, like, very clear, like, expectations are there. They're not like, It's been 5 minutes and I haven't heard from my coach. But anyway, those are things that I've learned along the way. It sounds overly anal, but I rather overly inform someone than leave it vague and have them stress about it. But going back to what you said, Luke, yeah, it's a lot about just having a really good system that makes it very seamless for a client to understand and also to be able to communicate and build the coach-athlete relationship that can ultimately allow you to collaborate really well to advance someone up. And the past systems that have failed have been ones that have neglected that had vagueness, that lacked the ability to communicate clearly as an athlete or as a coach. And with modern day technology and what we have now, there's really not any excuse for it not to be there. And that's everything we teach in J3 University is to help you build, of course, the base foundation of all the nuts and bolts of coaching, but then actually be implementing the systems. And why we now have J3U coaching, because we've seen too many systems fail, too many clients failed, and we want to raise the standard, improve the process. So maybe you don't want to learn all the nuts and bolts of coaching. You just want to be told how to be better as your own athlete. And that's why we have our J3U coaches, which are excellent at what they do. And we are just leveling up everyone that comes to us and giving great client experiences and not letting people down like I've been let down in the past of my own doing, or don't want to put on coaches, but we're all humans and make our mistakes. So we're our goal here is just to put a lot of care into everyone that we do coach and make you improve on stage, which ultimately leads to winning. Like Luke said, we've done a lot of winning.
We've done a lot of that. So I love my team. They're so great. Just like working with them every week is unbelievable. And just like the clients are putting on stage is unreal. So if you guys are interested, check it out. We got the link everywhere. It's in my bio. It's in John's. It's in all the coaches. So get yourself a J3 coach. But what we got next week? What are we doing next week? What's the topic?
Next week I'll be coming close to my own peak week. So we'll dive into, it's probably more like the pre-peak week, like what sets that up, and we'll dive into it.
Love it.
Anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.